1976 left an unmistakable mark on South Africa's history and future. In Cape Town, it was the year that students organized the largest march to the city centre, and the year that students at Salt River High added their voice to the growing chorus condemning the abhorrent apartheid regime.
So my idea was that we should march to the place that really mattered.
The response was quite a shock.
We saw this huge contingent of riot police with batons and obviously shooting tear gas and so on.
The demonstrators fled in all directions to escape the violence of the security police.
10 of us got arrested.
But we were all kids and we were sitting like this around these. I remember this very vividly. All of us were sitting here and Dala was sitting there.
But back to the documentary. Over the past 18 months, I've been compiling a documentary about the events at Salt River High during 1976. Now that's quite a broad topic, so I had to ring fence it in some way. And what I did was focus the documentary specifically on those that were arrested. There were 10 students arrested, 2 teachers and a parent. So I use that as my ring fence, and I tried to capture the events leading up to the arrest, and then also the experience while they were incarcerated. I was the youngest, as Dr. Lalkin says. At the time I was 14 years old. I was the youngest of the group, and obviously those events had a profound impact on me and my thinking. And therefore I'm quite honored after 40 years. I always wanted to tell the story. And I'm in a position after 40 years to do exactly that. So I'm very, very honored and privileged to do this. And it's not my story. I think what I've been able to do is tell the story from everyone's perspective that were involved. The footage that you're about to see is the first 10 minutes of that documentary. I'm screening the full documentary at a later date. I'm just giving you a little bit of a taste of this documentary. I'm very, very proud of what I've been able to achieve with very little experience in documentation, videography, and editing. But with the help of a few people, I've been able to put this story together. Obviously, I had the story, and I had to call upon Yusuf and others that were involved at the time to assist. The documentary will be widely advertised, and that's one of the reasons why I'm holding back. It's done, but I'm holding back a bit because I want to have maximum exposure and get it to as wide an audience as possible and generate as much financial benefit for the school from the documentary. And this is one of those events that I've embarked upon. I thank you so much for supporting us.
1976, the year that high school students became political activists as the resistance against apartheid intensified. Aware of the move by the apartheid regime to use Afrikaans as the language of instruction in schools, students across the country mobilized themselves to take their fight beyond the classroom. The unrest was ignited in Soweto on the 16th of June that year and quickly spread like wildfire to all corners of the country. When it finally arrived in Cape Town in the spring of that year, the students at Salt River High took it upon themselves to play a meaningful role in opposing the oppressive system of apartheid.
The Soweto uprisings obviously quickly made its way back down to Cape Town.
In June 16th, Soweto spread to Cape Town. There was an enormous upsurge in political activity.
Us in Cape Town, it meant even more because by and large Cape Town was classified as a kind of a coloured community, which was not as in the forefront of the struggle against apartheid.
My first conscious kind of recollection or understanding that something was going on was the Hector Peterson photograph. And I mean, the whole thing spread. It was reported specifically as a dispute over the use of language as a medium for instruction. But of course, I mean, things ran much deeper. And that was a kind of political activation for it. It was a moment, a key moment for me, because it turned me from just a student into political activist.
For students based in Cape Town who were classified as coloured under apartheid racial categories, the opposition to Afrikaans posed a unique problem. Although the language was seen as the language of the oppressors up north, for them it was the language they spoke at school and at home. So what did the growing opposition towards it mean for them? Through robust discussions in the classroom and school corridors with each other and their teachers, they reconciled the fact that the issue of language was but a springboard for much bigger and more pertinent issues around apartheid.
And since our kids in Cape Town were all Afrikaans speaking anyway, that is what confused them, right? What's the problem with Afrikaans? And I use the opportunity to say, right, no language is racist. It is how the language is used and the reasons for using the language in a particular way, right, that encourages racism, that is the problem.
We were already involved in a teachers and informal teachers association whilst the rumblings started at Salt River High School. So the students might not have known about that.
Quite a few teachers, many of them who came from the unity movement, the teachers didn't necessarily say go out and protest and throw rocks or whatever, right? But they did get the students to understand, right, what apartheid meant in all its cruelty.
And the reality of the unrest was that the entire new generation was not going to live, not simply with apartheid education anymore, but was not going to live with apartheid anymore.
Students in so-called coloured schools were becoming more active. And one of the schools in which a lot of activity was taking place was Salt River High School.
The time came when the students were no longer content to merely engage in intellectual discussions and debates, and they decided to take their dissatisfaction with the system to the streets. Spurred by what they saw unfolding in Soweto, together with their peers at other schools around Cape Town, they decided to hold a march to the Athlone police station to demonstrate their dissatisfaction with the system.
and we felt that demonstrating at school and paying lip service to the struggle was now not sufficient anymore. We had to do something.
I think we were about 50 schools, and we met at Livingston.
They're called SRCs nowadays, the Student Representative Councils. But at that time, we were called the Action Committee.
And I was elected to the Student Representative Committee at Assault High School, along with a few others. And from that moment on, school was suspended, normal school was suspended at Assault High School. And the Student Representative Council, the SRC, of which I was a member, was responsible for the daily program and what we were going to do in terms of our protest.
Each school had to send representatives.
We maybe, twice or thrice a week, we used to discuss, what was happening in the Western Cape, and in particular decide as to what we were going to do.
Scores of students prepared themselves for the march that day. Geared up to take a passionate but peaceful stance, they gathered at their respective schools and prepared to demonstrate.
I think it was the 1st of September. The Action Committee, together with all the other schools,
we were invited to join a march in Athlone.
In a kind of a protest.
Our aim was to create awareness.
It came to my notice that the students were going to join students in Athlone for a demonstration. And I got into my car.
Ons het 'n free passage gekry. Ons het die trein geboord verniet van South-Afrika af.
Even though the intention had been to merely raise awareness about their opposition to the substandard education that non-white children were being subjected to, the apartheid regime viewed the students as a threat which had to be silenced at all costs, and the security police were deployed in numbers, armed with batons, rubber bullets and tear gas.